Gratitude Seeker. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. With me, I have an amazing woman. She has taken her family all around the world, doing volunteering, doing all kinds of interesting things. And I believe her story is very inspiring, and I'm sure that you will find it so as well. Her name is Karen Doerflein. I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. She's a world changer, a speaker, an entrepreneur, an energy specialist, a world traveler, and a humanitarian. She is originally from Phoenix, Arizona, but she and her family has traveled all around the world and even lived in all kinds of places. But I will let her tell you more about what she's doing and what she did, and I think her story is fascinating, and I think that you will love it as well. Karen?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited to be part of the podcast, and I just want to thank you. I'm really grateful for what you are doing.
Thank you.
So my gratitude to you. And so my story is I have had a lot of challenges like most people. I was a cardiac and trauma nurse, and then I owned traditional companies. And I got sick of living in the rat race of traditional business. So decided to make a shift in my career. And we actually moved with our kids to Bali, Indonesia in 2014 and planned on a year, ended up being 2 years. And we were able to take them to Cambodia, China, Philippines, Myanmar, and also do work over in Africa. And I will tell you, just a life-changing trip for all of us. And I believe everybody, if you haven't already, to go experience third world countries and to see how other people live will give you a great appreciation for how most of us who are on this, listening to this podcast, actually get to live.
Exactly. And it's not quite the same situation here in Romania, but it's one of the reasons why I think it's interesting that this podcast is made from Romania, which is not as developed as the US or Australia or the UK. And I hope that this too will inspire you. If I can find reasons here to be grateful, surely you can find reasons to be grateful in the US, in Australia, in UK, and other places that are better developed. But getting back to you and your story, Karen, I think that what you're doing and the fact that you are taking your kids on these kinds of adventures, let's say, is just amazing. And I think that it has a great positive effect on them, because kids usually, and I was the same when I was little, tend to not appreciate things too much. But when you see such diversity and such differences, I think that they just have a great impact on them. But I'm really curious if you've seen in their way of being the impact of these experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting to see they're all very different personalities. Our kids are now 14, 12, and 9. And living in other countries people don't have. And for my daughter, one of the biggest changes was she actually decided to become a vegetarian in Bali. And, we don't realize in the United States, I believe so many more people would be vegetarian if they actually knew what the whole processing of animals and dairy, and I didn't know a lot of it, especially with dairy. She decided to be a vegetarian, and when she had to be enrolled in her school this year, she had to fill out a questionnaire, and one of her answers was that she wanted to make a difference in the world. And I was like, this is a 9-year-old kid wanting to make a difference. My boys as well, going to other countries and seeing kids on the street. We were in Myanmar, staying at a beautiful hotel, and walked out of the hotel, and there were literally kids from the age of 1.5 to about 7, lying, sleeping on the streets outside of a 4.5-star hotel. And my kids know anywhere we go, if I see something, I'm going to do something. So we end up at orphanages. We actually ended up at an orphanage there because I'm like, where can we take these kids? And it's interesting because their acts on a daily basis are above, I believe, how most kids in the US at least would act, because the US is a very materialistic, and a lot of people are self-absorbed, not intentionally. It's just the way a lot of people here are. So I'm grateful because my kids, I believe, are much more aware as to what other people go through, and just their daily acts of being kind to people is a big deal to me.
Totally, totally. And what I also wanted to add that I forgot to add about you, Karen, is that you're always grateful. Like, I know that you've held talks, and you also mention gratitude a lot. And um, I love the fact that I'm sure that, so what we see on Facebook is are some amazing things, but it's just part of the story. Like, I'm sure that it's not very easy being a Westerner to be in such countries, because you might not have some things, and still being able to feel gratitude and to be grateful is can be a challenge, right?
Good question. It's actually interesting. My one of my goals about 8-9 years ago was, I said I want to be able to stay at every Four Seasons resort in the world because I like the hotels. And I think we managed to stay at 34.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather be sleeping on a mattress with minimal water, no hot water, helping get kids out of slavery in Ghana than staying at a Four Seasons resort. Now, I tell people, the people who I've come in contact with in third world countries have done more for me than I can ever do for them. I
Wow.
I literally call them my soul trips. And I tell people, when you think of how you feel when you're able to give back or help people, it is an amazing feeling. So literally, people in other countries have done more for me than I could ever do for them.
Amazing,
So
amazing.
no, I don't miss it, and it makes me realize, coming back to the US, how little, what we don't need. And I really believe the more things people accumulate, for a lot of people, the more unhappy they are,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
that's an interesting. Yeah.
they're focused on stuff, not,
Mm-hmm.
I told my son, who really likes cars, um, I said, what happens if a Bugatti, which could be $1 million car, and a Honda get in a car accident? What are people concerned about? And it's about people's lives. Right now in the US, we have crazy things going on with hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes in Mexico and all these natural disasters, fires. At the end of the day, it's about people that matter. It's not about the things.
Exactly, exactly. And I was thinking the same thing these days about these natural disasters, because these get people back to what's actually important, what we actually appreciate, and what's really important in our life. And I think that one of the, even though it's really hard for them, and I can imagine that it's not fun to experience this, but it gets them back to what really matters, and what they truly appreciate, and seeing that they have those things they can rebuild. When you have that, when you still have your life, when you still have your family, you can rebuild, and those external things are not as important, and you see that you can actually be happy in spite of them, like without them as well.
Absolutely. And I've had friends and a lot of people, and ourselves included, because we went through a big financial loss um, in 2009. And I know so many people have gotten rid of so many material things, and they are so much happier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. People always think that when they will reach this goal and when they will have this uh, object, that will make them happy. But it's usually so I've been there, and I'm not just talking about people because I'm talking about myself somehow. Um, I thought that that will bring happiness and everything will be great once I have that thing. And it just doesn't work that way. And that's why gratitude is so important. When you are grateful and when you appreciate things, when you get it, it's great. You appreciate it even more. But if you don't, it's as good. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and also what I'm really curious if you have so you mentioned the fact that the people there that you met have taught you a lot, and you feel that they were even more generous with you. Can you tell us a few stories about these kinds of people? Because I'm really curious, and I'm sure that our audience is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Rwanda and Uganda, we put in water wells in very remote areas where literally people, I mean, we're talking about kids and families who have to walk, whether it's a mile, 3 miles to get water from
Wow.
where the livestock drink. Like it is muddy, murky water. And sometimes it's literally like 3 inches deep. It's unbelievable. And when we put in these water wells, one well will service about 1,500 people.
Oh.
When we go to do it, or 1,500 families, when we go to do a dedication, they have the chief of the village come and a lot of the family members, and they are there wanting to give us uh, soda, juice, a chicken, all these things that cost them money, and yet they go out and they make it happen because they're so incredibly grateful. Another one is in Rwanda, where they had the genocide, where almost 1 million people were killed.
Oh.
We work with a group out there where they unite, they bring together the survivors and the perpetrators. So literally they bring together people who have killed another person's family, and they actually bring them together by sharing a cow, and the sense of gratitude from these people and seeing people being able to forgive is
Mm.
another big thing. Forgiveness is huge, and that, to me, that 100% goes with gratitude, because when we hear these stories of we had one woman where all 4 of her kids were killed. She had this is in Rwanda with the genocide. She
Mm-hmm.
had she had her baby tied to her back. The baby was shot, and here there's a man sitting next to her. This woman's telling the story, and after she got done telling the story, he starts speaking, and it was at that moment that we realized he was the perpetrator who killed her
Oh
family.
my God.
And when you're in situations like that, it's the the human spirit, the power of forgiveness, and the power of people being grateful. This woman was grateful she was still alive. She was grateful she had a cow to share. She was grateful that she could forgive him and move on with her life, even though her entire family had been killed. So there's so many stories working with kids, getting them out of slavery. We had a situation where we rescued 2 twins, and these kids were sold for about $50 a year, and the kids were about
Oh my
7 years old when we rescued them in Ghana. And the mom didn't believe that they were sold into slavery, so we had to get her on an 11-hour bus ride to come out. And when she saw how the kids had been treated, she had 11 kids. She was grateful that the kids were rescued, but then she actually came back 5-6 weeks later and dropped off her little girl, 4, instead of selling her into slavery.
God.
Grateful that there was somebody to be able to take care of her
Yeah.
kids, because she really couldn't.
Amazing, amazing. And this puts things into perspective. Like when we think about our life, and uh, I don't have children yet, but our listeners might think about their children, and what they experience and what children in other parts of the world experience is such a big difference. And yeah, in the US, in the developed countries, they are there is a high percentage of them being very safe and well taken care of and everything. And here in these countries, you have all kinds of situations like these that just make you think a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people, when I look at situations, and we were in Nepal after I'm gonna plug in my computer. We were in Nepal 5 weeks after the earthquake happened in 2015, and went to all of these remote areas, and it was amazing because we were there to help people with medical care and bring supplies. And the people there were concerned about if we had lunch, or if we had, and here these were areas that were completely devastated, but they were so grateful that people came out and actually took the time to care about them. So I always look at people's situations and think, why am I in the position I'm in
Mm-hmm.
and not in the position they're in? And if I was in the position they're in, I'd pray to God that somebody would help me if they could.
Exactly, exactly. And I think one way or another, I like to think that God manifests Himself through people, and it's up to us to feel that message, to hear that message, and to do things, to pass it on, or to do things like these. And I'm sure that people seeing you there felt like God has heard their prayers, and was able to send you and other people there to help them. And I think this is very beautiful, because you think about the world in a more beautiful way when you see that there are people like you doing things like this, that God and, and the universe actually cares about you, and you're not left alone even in those kind of situations. And I think this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting back to gratitude, I'm really curious what gratitude means for you personally.
What gratitude means for me, gosh, it's everything. I mean, I practice it literally every day. I believe if we are lucky enough to wake up, we don't know how much time any of us have, but there's a reason, we're waking up the next day. Because somebody's not, if we can walk, if we can see, other people can't. And I believe, especially in the US, I'm from the US, I don't mean to keep saying the US, but so many people are so focused on what they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are truly focused on what you do have, and I tell people, I don't care if you have $1, if you have $10,000, if you have $1,000,000, whatever you're grateful for is going to compound. Period. So as far as gratitude, I do a 20-minute meditation every morning. I do hot yoga 5 to 6 days a week. And they say praying is when you talk to God, and meditation's when you listen. And I have a gratitude journal, and I write down, it might be 5 things, it might be 20 things, but I write down things every single day that I'm grateful for.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And this is one of the things that I want to do with the podcast, to get people to have this habit, because it's great. So it's easy to be grateful when things are going great, and something great has happened, and I'm so grateful that this happened, and it's truly a feeling of gratitude. But having this as a habit, as you do, is is what I'm aiming for, to get people to do, because when you do this, when something bad happens that it isn't as easy to go through, you can get to overcome it much easier and get back to gratitude and happiness, because it actually leads to happiness, you know. I mean, you actually know me even better than me, probably.
Yeah, no, it does. You know, and I it gratitude is it's a feeling that you have. And when you have a feeling, not just a thought, but when it's a feeling, it is 100 times more powerful than just a thought. And sometimes people will say to me, well, I'm grateful, but how do I feel that way? And I tell people, okay, well, maybe a start is if you think of people who have impacted you, or if you think of days in your life that, whether it was when a child was born or whatever it was, and you start to write down those things or write a letter of gratitude to somebody, whoever it is, you will have that feeling will automatically happen.
Exactly. And I love this idea, to think about a moment in time when you were very grateful. And for instance, when all the time when I tell the story about my experience with the prayer and the fact that it was answered, when I think about it, I remember also the feeling. And it's just amazing when you actually get to feel the feeling of gratitude. You feel it. And yeah, there is a quote that I don't know from whom, but it says that it's the the purest of human feelings. I don't know, something like this, but I should remember it. So it's a very beautiful feeling that you can feel, and it's very different from actually from just saying that I'm grateful. No, it's much more, and like you said, it's 100 times much more impactful than just saying the words.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Karen, do you have a certain quote on gratitude that you like, that inspires you?
Oh my gosh. So I do. I have a lot. Okay, so I'll tell you.
Sure.
I'll tell you. I have a lot. So one from Oprah, which I love, is be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never ever have enough. And another one, that's Oprah. Another one is acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. That's Eckhart Tolle. I have like 40 of them here, but I'm only going to give you this.
It's good. Thank you. I appreciate it, because otherwise we would only have quotes in this episode. Good. So why did you choose the two and not the other 40?
Actually, that's a good question. So Eckhart Tolle, I am a student of his work, and Oprah Winfrey, she, with what she's doing now with her Super Soul Sunday, she has a new program. She said that everything she's ever done, from the Oprah show to everything, is for her to be able to have Super Soul Sunday and raise the consciousness of people. And I'm sending a package off to her tomorrow.
Wow, that's awesome.
And
That's
I'm going to
awesome.
send you one too.
Wow.
It's called the Tree of Life. It'll be a gift from me to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool.
Good question.
By the way, I know that you have all kinds of pictures with celebrities, and how did you get to meet all these famous people, like uh, I don't know, all kinds of huge celebrities?
Yeah, probably the one most asked is about Johnny Depp.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper's a rock star. Johnny Depp actually does charity work with Alice Cooper. He supports a charity, and I support Alice
Amazing.
Cooper's charity. So Johnny Depp is out here, usually in December's in Phoenix. So I go to their events, and usually I'm backstage usually, so I get to see and hang out with whoever's back there. And my parents were big on charity work, and there are a lot of people who give back. So literally charities. And I had also clients with one of my other companies where I had a lot of high-end people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, for our listeners, if you want to meet celebrities, practice
Give back,
gratitude, give back, and
donate,
you
donate your time or whatever it is. Donate your time, something. Yeah.
yeah, and I love that you mentioned that you also do volunteering. Yeah, so probably you're donating money, but also you're donating your time, which I find really amazing because some people do amazing things with their money. The fact that they are donating money, but donating time is a whole new experience, right?
Yeah. It is. It's great. You need money to be able to do things and to build shelters, but I was at a point where for years I would be on committees and boards, and one day I said, I don't care what color the invitation or the napkin is for a $5,000 table for a charity event. My whole purpose was to be working directly with whoever we could impact, and that it was in charities, but it wasn't where my heart was,
Mm-hmm.
you
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, and it's interesting. So the impact that it has on you is just amazing. I know that a friend of mine has went to India, and even though Romania isn't the richest country, when he got back, he as well he appreciated what we have here much more, and was amazed by the situation in which the people were living. And funnily enough, they were friendly, they were grateful, they were great people other than that, and that's quite interesting.
Yep. We are
But
all we're all one, right?
yeah, exactly. But I'm really curious, what do you do when it's hard to be grateful? I'm sure that you're a human being like us, and that you have your not so good days, or you have challenges of sort, and I'm sure that um, yeah, these things happen, and I'm really curious, what do you do when it's hard to be grateful?
Good question. So in 2009, we had a major economic fall with our businesses, everything, and we we ended up losing over $10 million and had to sell or get rid of everything we had, our house included, and move into one of my dad's places. And people said, "Well, how did you deal with all that? How did you?" And I said, "You know what? Money and things you can always get back, or you could make money again." And literally from that time, I focused on, I was grateful my kids were healthy. I was not in a cancer ward with my kids. My marriage stayed intact. Most of my friends got divorced over money. And I looked at, honestly, for me, it's really easy to be grateful for now. And I truly believe everything we go through is for a reason. Everything. And I've been through hard things. I've been through, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. I've been through multiple things. And I
Mhm.
believe what we go through makes us be able to connect with people more. And I'm grateful. I do, you know what? Yoga is my yoga. And if I really feel in a bad mood, I'll go to a movie. But it's really not, I don't get upset like I used to.
Mhm.
I just don't.
Yeah, and I think this is um, at least in part because you have cultivated gratitude as a habit, and that's what I'm always saying, that once you do have that, when things come up, because you have a habit to be positive, to be grateful, it's so much easier to get back on track. Even though you have valleys, it's easier to get back on the positive side because you are used to always seeing the beautiful things, the things that you are grateful for. And I think this is great that you mentioned this, and the fact that everything happens for a reason. Yeah, totally. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. We
And
don't
yeah,
know why. It
and
just
also
does.
the fact that we can be more empathic with people when we've been through all kinds of experiences. If we only had positive experiences all our life, we wouldn't be able to understand anyone and
Absolutely.
their experiences. So have you been grateful for all of your life? Like, did you at one point have an experience that has gotten you to be grateful, to experience gratitude on a personal level and actually feel it, not just know about the word, but actually experience?
Yeah, when I was 16 years old, I had a brother who was killed, and he was hit by a car on my bicycle, and I felt for a very long time, I felt like it was my fault for a
Wow.
number of different reasons. And uh with that, I would say I was for how my parents handled everything, for how I was never blamed. I was the only person who blamed myself. Um, it taught me a lot of lessons about forgiveness and about just being grateful for life, because like I said, we don't know, so many of us live like we have all the time in the world, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so literally with me from that point on, I never thought I'd lose a younger sibling. Um, I, and that I believe has made me grateful, just to be grateful every day. If I wake up, I'm breathing, I'm grateful. Because when you lose somebody who I know a lot of us have, but you know, especially a immediate family member, it's a different, makes you think about life differently, especially when
Yeah,
it's a younger sibling. So
totally, totally. Wow. So what I also wanted to ask you is, before you were so before being 16 and having that experience, um, what would you tell your younger self about gratitude? Like when you were even younger than that, what would you tell Karen that's, I don't know, 15 or 14 about
yeah.
gratitude?
Yeah, my younger self. You know what? I'm going to say I'm very grateful. The way I was brought up, my parents did so much giving back, and I saw from them from an early age. They I'm one of 6 kids, 2 they adopted. One summer we had 11 kids in our house. They
Wow.
took in they took in foster care kids who were hard to place, who needed temporary placement. I, I saw my parents give so much of themselves. And so when I saw these other kids come into our household and I knew stories whether they had been abused, or I was just great. I was literally grateful from an early age, just
Mhm.
being exposed to that. So I would say to my younger self, um, hmm,
Or to people, to the younger people that are listening to us, what would you tell them about gratitude?
I would say it's one of the most powerful forces, if not the most powerful force, the most powerful feeling that you can cultivate. And when you are truly in tune with who you are and why you're here, and you start putting a practice of gratitude into place that is authentic, you will be literally your life and yourself. You will be transformed in different ways that, they're going to be different for all of us. But I would say to each of you, if you start practicing gratitude, whether it's, like I said earlier, writing things down or a journal, or when you focus on what you're grateful for, you will absolutely see a shift in your life.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Also, Do you have a few people that you would like to mention that you're very grateful for that have impacted your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, my parents. Absolutely, they are my biggest influence. Period. Um, Also, a gentleman named Vishen Lakiani from Mind Valley. He's out of. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, he is. Tony Robbins, John Maxwell. Just honestly, I believe everybody who's come into my life has taught me a lesson. So I'm grateful for the good and the bad lessons that I've been taught.
And probably the people that you've met in Africa and
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
sure, I'm sure. All right. So, do you have a book recommendation for our listeners, by the way?
A book, yeah. Uh, Gosh, a couple. I would say Go Givers, Sell More. It's all about giving back. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And I mean, Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just all about people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the Power, the book The Power by Rhonda Burns is all
Mm-hmm.
about gratitude. And so the power and the secret, I mean, is
Mm-hmm.
about gratitude.
Awesome,
So
awesome.
this is,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
So, where can people find you? Where can people see your work?
Yeah,
Can people get in touch with you?
yeah, absolutely. Pretty easy to find on Facebook. Just my name, Karen Doerflein, and it's Karen Karen. I'm on Instagram. Just my name. I think there's only one Karen Doerflein to date.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for being here with us. I absolutely loved our interview, and I hope that you felt great as well.
Thank you. I absolutely do. And thank you so much for your time, for your heart, for your spirit. I'm grateful to be a part of this, and I want to just thank you for what you're doing and all the lives you're changing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.